Alright, so we've gone over t-tests, we've gone over the z-test, and even the f-test where we have to test if the variances are equal enough to do this. What happens if you have more than two groups? So if you have more than two groups, neither the t-test nor the z-test is effective anymore, and I'll talk about why. So if you have more than two groups, you need to work with an ANOVA. And a one-way ANOVA is simply one variable, so you're only changing one thing at a time, but you're changing it amongst multiple groups. And the best example of this really is when you're testing the effects of a drug on cells growing in culture, for example. And so the control has no drug, but then you might have 3 different doses of drug. That still is one variable. All you're doing is changing how much of the drug those cells are exposed to. So only changing one variable at a time, you're just changing it amongst 4 different groups. That requires a one-way ANOVA. So why is that? Well, and what is ANOVA? ANOVA stands for analysis of variance, right? So hopefully that'll become a little bit more clear in a second. This is when you're comparing multiple population means. So again, more than 2 groups needs an ANOVA. So let's think about what this is actually doing. So ANOVA, analysis of variance. So which of these 2 groups, so up here or down here, which of these would show you that the darker line is significantly more likely to be significantly different from the lighter line? And we've seen this before. We talked about this when we talked about variance in the first place. These 2 groups that overlap less are more likely to be different from each other. These 2 groups that overlap more are more likely to be just from the same group and not statistically significant difference. So when you combine the variance of everything, so the combined variance is this dotted line here. So this is the combined variance of both groups together. So you can see the orange group stretches out here, so does our dotted line. The lighter orange group stretches out here, so does our dotted line. That's our variance. If you have 2 groups that overlap less, your variance is going to be stretched out. This is ANOVA's version of flattening the curve, right? So in COVID-19 right now, we're all about flattening the curve. This, where the 2 data sets overlap a lot, you have a very steep curve. When you have the variances that overlap very little, your variances spread out, the combined variances, and you flatten the curve. That is what ANOVAs are measuring. They're measuring the combined variance, and the flatter this combined variance is, the more likely these 2 groups are to be statistically significantly different. The less flat this is, the less spread out the combined variance is, the more these 2 groups overlap, and therefore the more likely the null hypothesis that there is no difference is to be correct. So, stating the ANOVA hypothesis. If we have more than 2 samples that we're comparing, so more than 2 groups, what we really want to know, let's say if we have 3, is if the 3 samples all came from the same population. So if you have more than 2 groups, did all of those samples come from the same population? So really what you're asking is whether at least one of the groups is statistically significant from the other. So all an ANOVA is saying is at least one of those groups statistically significant from the other. So you might have 10 different groups, and even if 5 or 6 are all statistically different from each other, all the ANOVA is going to tell you is whether at least one of those groups is statistically different from the rest. The null hypothesis states all 10 groups are from the same population. And so therefore the ANOVA is testing, again, if at least one came from a different population. So the null hypothesis is that they're all the same. No matter how many groups you have, null hypothesis states they're all the same. The ANOVA hypothesis means they're not all the same. At least one group is different from the rest. So how do you approach that? Well, you could do this with several paired t-tests. However, this is going to yield poor results. So in other words, let's say you had 3 groups, group A, B, and C. You can do a t-test A to B. You can do a t-test A to C, and you can do a t-test B to C, right? But that is not actually using all the data at once. So that's what this is showing here. There's 2 problems with this. The biggest one is that you have a decrease in significance level. So every time you do an additional pairing, because you're not using all of the data at once, you're losing significance. So if you're looking at a 95% confidence level, and 95 to the nth power, where n is the number of different comparisons you're making, right? Every comparison is going to drop this. So let's say you even just have 3 different comparisons you have to make. Right? So A to B, B to C, and A to C. Well, 0.95 to the 3rd power suddenly makes our same confidence only 86%. So what we thought we were doing at a 95% confidence level is only an 86% confidence because we're not using all of the data at once. Let's think about this a different way. If you have a 95% confidence, what that basically is saying, your p-value is less than 0.05. So there is a p-value at 0.05 says there's a 5% chance that the null hypothesis is correct. That means 1 out of 20 times that you do this, your null hypothesis is actually going to be correct, even though you have a 0.05% significant level. So 19 out of 20 times your null hypothesis with this data should be rejected. However, 1 out of 20 times it shouldn't be rejected, right? Your confidence is not that there's 0% chance that these groups are from the same population. There's not a 0% chance your null hypothesis is correct, it's a 5% chance. So if you're making 20 measurements, statistically at least one of those out of those 20 measurements should be different from the rest just because of random variation. And so if you're doing this with paired t-tests, you're going to lose that information and you're going to arbitrarily make the wrong conclusion often. So because we're not using all of the information at once, because we're doing this in a pairwise test, the more t-tests we use to compare the different data in our group, the less confidence we have. And ANOVA, on the other hand, uses all of the groups at once. And that's why it's much more powerful. So when you're doing an ANOVA, the first step is to really find out if there's any difference at all. So is at least one of these groups different from the rest? And if there is, then you need to go and do the more interesting thing. You'll need to do the Tukey's pairwise test. So an ANOVA just tells us, yes, statistically speaking, at least one of these groups is different from the rest. Tukey's then tells us which ones are different from the rest. Right? So in order to perform an ANOVA, though, you still need equal variances. So we have to do the equivalent of an F test to test if the variances are close enough. But since we have multiple groups, it's actually the F max test, because we're going to take the maximum variance divided by the minimum variance. So we're finding the maximum ratio of the variance. All right? So in order to do this, the F max test, the F calculated, again, is the variance of the group with the highest variance, the maximum variance, over the group with the minimum variance. Right? And then the F critical, we'll come back to this table in a second. So what I want to do is jump over here, and this is the ANOVA where we're working together. So now the ANOVA tab here, and I've already done the averages, standard deviations, even though that is a typo there, and the variances. So I've found the variances, and so how did I get the F calculated? So remember, the F calculated is equal to the maximum variance over the minimum variance. So in this case, if I'm looking here, I can find the group that had the maximum variance. That happens to be this one. So equals that maximum variance divided by, where's my minimum variance? There's the minimum variance. So that tells me that my F calculated is 6.2. So with that, I need to figure out the F critical. And when I do that, so come back to this table here, A is the number of categories. In other words, how many groups do we have? Right? So if we jump to the Excel file, how many groups do we have? Well, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 groups. Right? This replicate numbers, that's not a group, that's just showing me the replicates. Don't get that confused. If there's not a label at the top, it's not a group. So we have 8 groups. These are just measurements with various controls that I've used in developmental biology of teratogen and their effect on axolotl embryos. All right, so we have 8 groups. Let's jump back to our here. So if we have 8 groups, that means A is 8, number of categories. So we're looking on this one right here. Then V is the minimum degrees of freedom. So what that means is that is the degrees of freedom from the group that had the minimum number of replicates. So we can see here that we have different number of replicates throughout. All right? That doesn't mean we should drop data, add data, make stuff up. That just means find the one that has the minimum. The minimum is 11. So our degrees of freedom is actually 11 minus 1. Our degrees of freedom would be 10. So we know we have 8 categories. Our degrees of freedom is 10. And so that right there gives us an F critical of 7.87. So we get the F critical from the table. All right. And if F max calculated is less than F critical, F max critical, then the variances are close enough. So now we can do our ANOVA. So I'll show you how to do the first part of ANOVA, and then the next video will show you how to do Tukey's pairwise test, which is actually a little more complex. The ANOVA itself isn't too bad. So we're going to go to Data, Data Analysis, and you can see we have options. We have a single factor, that's our one-way ANOVA. We're only changing one variable. So we're going to select the ANOVA single factor. And we want to select the data, and go ahead and select the labels as well. Do not include the replicate numbers here in your data. That is not data. That will actually really skew this. So if you're given replicate numbers, don't collect that. Only collect your actual data. And so I do have my labels there. And then I am going to create an output range, and I will just have that put my data right here because I have some room for it. Oops. Okay, something's wrong here. All right, I need to reselect my input. I could see that because for whatever reason when I tried to select the output it had selected that single cell. And then I'm going to do my output range here again, just right there, and hopefully this time it works. There we go. There we have our table. And I'll tell you what the rest of these numbers mean in a minute, but right now all we're looking at is this p-value. This p-value is well below 0.05, so that tells us that at least one of these groups is statistically different from the rest. Right? In fact, we can see that there's a 0.02% chance that all of these groups are from the same population. So there is a really, really strong possibility that at least one of these groups is significantly different from the rest. Now, like I said, that's not enough. That is enough to tell us we need to move forward, but that's when you need to do the Tukey's pairwise test, because what I really want to know is which groups are statistically significantly different from each other, right? It's not really enough to know that one of these is different. I want to know which one. But this is how you get that information about if there is at least one group different from the rest. You do the F max calculation to make sure the variances are close enough, and then you do your ANOVA single factor, and you're looking at that p-value.